All right, guys, it's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock. It is time for our weekly conversations with Commodores. You know him as number 7, 120. Sorry about that. 120 career catches, and he's graduated from Vanderbilt. Now he's moved out west to further his career. Of course, I've got Cam Johnson. How you doing tonight, Cam? Good to see you, bud.
I'm doing well. How are you doing? I appreciate you having me.
Oh, my pleasure. As Cam and I chatted for a minute or two, we've had Commodores going back to the 50s all the way to this past year's team and everywhere in between, and I love it. And we're just telling the story, the oral histories of the Vanderbilt program. Cam, for folks who have not been following you on social or have lost you since graduation, give them a quick update. Where are you going to be this fall? What's you got going on?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be headed out west. I'm going to go finish my final year at Arizona State. Sort of go see what some Pac-12 football is talking about. Forks up.
There you go. That's awesome. Now I did see, and I don't know, and here's where I put my old guy hat on. We had no transfer portal. We had no NIL. We had none of those awesome things that you guys have access to these days. I did see, it did come across because I was following your Twitter a little bit, that 2 different Arizona State receivers have transferred out this year. I don't know how recent that is, but did that factor in some of your decision making after you decided that's what you wanted to do?
100%. I mean, when I was looking, I was definitely wanted to go somewhere where I felt like I would be able to be used and somewhere where I was needed. And so seeing 2 of Arizona State's guys, their top guys, leave and knowing that the receiver room was a little bit thin and they needed older guys to come in for production was something that I couldn't really look past. It was super intriguing to me.
Well, I bet it will be. Plus, playing a different conference out west, different time zone. You're going to have to get up early. It's not
right.
like playing out in the east or in the central. You're going to be on early. And when we turn on sports, game day, and we see you out there, it's going to be super early for you. But who's your head coach? Who's your position coach?
So the head coach is actually Herm Edwards, who has a background in the NFL. So that was something that was also enticing to me. And then position coach is going to be Bobby Wade. And he played in the NFL for a couple of years. He actually played before Coach Moorhead did, or played when Coach Moorhead did, who was the receivers coach at Vanderbilt my first 2 years. So they have a little bit of history. And so just the league connections they have there was something that was awesome. And also playing for somebody who's done it at the highest level and sort of has done what I want, played where I want to be at one day. So,
well, I was going to say Herm Edwards had a spectacular career as a defensive player. If you hadn't seen it, you need to go see that very memorable scoop and score that he had against, it was the Eagles versus the Giants. Do you know the play I'm talking about?
Yes.
All the Giants had to do was down the ball and the game was over, but they didn't. And Herm took it to the house. But I want to welcome OJ Fleming is in with us tonight. Good afternoon or good evening, OJ. It's good to see you, bud. I've got Cam Johnson. Are you going to keep number 7 for the Wildcat? Oh, excuse me, for this. My bad, Sun Devils.
You're fine. You're perfectly fine. So that's something that hasn't been talked about yet. I think that number 7 is available, so I'm hoping that I'm going to get to keep that number. Just been something that's been with me throughout my college career, so hopefully I keep it the same way.
Before we head into your past as a kid and making decisions and coming to Vanderbilt, I want to talk about the current. I want to talk about just in general, because I want to get a perspective from a current D1 athlete who's been playing for the last 4 or 5 years on the Division I level. How much of discussion when you're in the weight room or working out, wherever you are NIL, the conversations about name, image, and likeness, how often does that come up now?
I would say between players, it's not as much as people would think. Honestly, a lot of people just stay to themselves about their NIL deals or sort of what's going on, unless once they sign one, it goes public and people sort of ask about it. How did that happen? Things like that. But I think other than that, it stays pretty quiet. I mean, most of the guys on the team realize that there can be sort of a separation of NIL and the team. The team comes first and you sort of work, everybody's one. And then the NIL deals are something that sort of benefit you mostly by yourself. And so guys don't get into it a lot unless it's more so like, hey, I got this NIL deal. Maybe there's some way that you can get involved, or I got a marketing agent who's hit me up about you as well. He's done a good job for me. But otherwise, it's pretty quiet about NIL between players.
I'm glad to hear that, because the pessimist in me, the old head in me, says that could be a divisive thing. If I've got a wide receiver who's got a 5 or 6 figure deal right now, and we've got other receivers or running backs who want deals, but they don't, and you guys go all out to eat, are you expected? I don't mean you, but the guy with the NIL deal expected to pick up the tab. And and I'm not trying to create something that's not there. It's just I'm just envisioning how this could divide the team. But I like what you just said, being a teammate and trying to share the love by saying, my marketing guy asked about you. Let's see if we can get you on board. I like that aspect of it. And I want to welcome one of my former teammates from the St. Louis area, Rob Chura. Hey, Rob, good to see you, bud. And Kenny Cole coming out of Huntsville. Good to see you all. Of course, I've got number 7, Cam Johnson, who's recently just signed through the transfer portal with Arizona State. Cam, when do you go out west? When do you start either classes or start training with the fellas?
So my report date is actually June 19th. I have to drive up there. I've got a dog that I take care of, as well as just getting my furniture and stuff. Plus I want to have my car there. So I'm going to leave Nashville June the 10th and make it like a 2 or 3 day trip with my mom. I'll drive the U-Haul. She'll drive the car, and then hang out with her for a couple of days. She's never been out west that far. And so sort of we'll get to sightsee a little bit, and then she'll leave like 2 or 3 days before report day, and I'll have a couple days to myself.
One just tiny piece of advice. When you're leaving Louisiana and you hit the Texas border, don't get excited, because you got 900 miles to go, my friend. That's half your drive.
Right.
Well, we certainly are going to keep our tabs and watching you. And I haven't looked at Arizona State's schedule. Do you guys play anybody out east this year that's non-conference, or is it all Western schools?
No, I think the furthest east we come is to play Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're mostly all out west.
Yeah, I figured as such. Well, hopefully the variant of of COVID is not going to put everybody back to where we were 2 years ago. Hopefully there's a sense of normalcy in the football world, because we all need that. We certainly saw that this past football season. And that's where I want to head next, Cam. You've already graduated. You've made it through your time at Vanderbilt. But even before that, how did you get interested in Vanderbilt? How did Vanderbilt get interested in you? And just tell a little bit about your journey of being recruited. How did you land on campus?
So it really started, when I first moved to Nashville from Kentucky, I'll be honest, I hadn't even very much so heard of Vanderbilt. Even though I'm from Kentucky and I was a Kentucky basketball fan growing up, Vanderbilt just wasn't a school that I had heard of a ton. And so I moved here in 7th grade, and Vanderbilt was a good football team then. I remember when I first moved here, we would play NCAA, and the way I was first introduced to them was people would play with Vanderbilt, and they were like 23rd ranked team in the nation on there. And then, so that was where I sort of began to know who Vanderbilt was, know a little bit about them. And then whenever I was a freshman, they were actually my second offer after Tennessee, and sort of got to talk to Coach Franklin a little bit. He ended up leaving shortly afterwards, of course. And then just over the years, I would consistently be at Vanderbilt. My mom didn't have, we just didn't have enough money and resources to be able to go and visit 10 different colleges in a season. And so some schools sort of felt like maybe I wasn't as interested as they had hoped. But one thing that remained constant was always the love from Vanderbilt and Coach Mason. So that was always something that stuck with me, as well as being able to do it close to home. The small town I'm from doesn't have a lot of people sort of make it out and go play big time college football. So I'm only an hour and a half from Madisonville, Kentucky, my hometown. So being able to have my family come up, my little sisters, as well as be in the place where I grew up my past 6 years and be in Nashville, and being able to play in front of people that had sort of helped me become the player and man that I had become, was something that was super, super cool for me. And so it really came down to Auburn, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss. And when I was just looking at it, it just seemed like Vanderbilt was the best fit. Everywhere for me at the time sort of had their cons, and I felt like Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt had the least amount of cons. I mean, you had Auburn, they had just gotten a new receiver coach and a new offensive coordinator, sort of didn't know what they were doing, what kind of guys they were looking for anymore. Tennessee had been going through a lot of turmoil in the program. Vanderbilt had beaten them a couple
Dumpster fire. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Keep going.
There we go. And then Ole Miss had the sanctions coming. And so just looking at it, I was like, I can go play for a team who's made a bowl game, has a good roster coming back. They need receivers, as well as it's in front of my hometown crowd. And so that was really what drew me to Vanderbilt the most. And then, of course, my mom sort of always stressed the academic piece of it. She wanted me to get a college degree. She actually didn't like Tennessee because whenever we went to Tennessee, they showed us nothing academic. And so she was really big on that. And just being the first out of my family to sort of graduate was something that I thought would be cool. And so now that that's been able to come in reality, I have no regrets.
Awesome. That was their losses was certainly the black and gold's gain. And we certainly enjoyed watching you perform those 4 years. But it's interesting that you mentioned that Vanderbilt first came on your radar through online gaming, just because they were ranked back then. And that's how you seen them maybe at a glance. So now you knew who they were. But I love hearing how Vanderbilt gets on any student athlete's radar and then how it sticks. But of course, Coach Franklin was there only for a limited period of time, unprecedented success. Those who have been following the program for a long time never really felt he was going to stay. Being from Pennsylvania, getting into the SEC, I mean, I really couldn't blame him for going back home and building what he's got up there. But Coach Mason comes in from out west. He's a defensive-minded coach. What was that going through your mind, you being on the other side of the ball and knowing he's such a defensive-minded coach? What was that? I mean, how much of a factor was that? Clearly, it didn't overwhelm you. You still came to school. But what was, or who was in the wide receiver room? What was the offense that you were looking at? Talk a little bit about those factors, if you will.
I think Coach Mason being a defensive coach didn't necessarily deter me that much, mostly because the year before I came, my senior year of high school, and then even my junior year, I was seeing guys like Caleb Scott, Trent Sherfield, CJ Duncan, and of course, Kalijah. And then you have Jared as well. Do you see guys on the offensive end that are producing, that have NFL looks and NFL talent? So for me, I felt like even though Coach Mason was a defensive guy, and that might be what he mostly specialized in, that he obviously had a good coach, a good offensive coordinator in Coach Ludwig, and good position coaches on offense that were able to develop their guys, especially the receivers, because, I mean, the receivers were balling at the time. I actually committed to Coach Hankton, who's at LSU now. And so at the time, it was just, there was so much good going on the offensive behalf that for me, Coach Mason being a defensive guy wasn't really a major factor for me, especially because when you see how Coach Mason coached, he was very much so just like a general manager of the team. He was the guy who sort of spoke to us and things like that, but he didn't always tell the offensive coordinator, hey, this is what you got to run, things like that. So
he let his coordinators do their thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Once you, and I don't mean to skip around on you, but you mentioned all those players who were just a little bit ahead of you. Let's back up even a little bit more. Let's talk about J-Matt. How much of an influence has Jordan Matthews been, not just on yourself, but that wide receiving core over the years?
I think J-Matt's been just a huge influence on the receiver core. I mean, every time you go in or you have freshman guys come in, they talk about Jordan Matthews and sort of want to beat his record and things like that. So it gives everybody something to shoot for. And then on top of that, just during COVID and a little bit during the fall camp last year, J-Matt was there. Whenever J-Matt gets time, he comes back and hangs out. So for me personally, J-Matt's been a huge influence. I mean, I tell him the biggest part of the reason I had such a good junior year was because he was there, and just being able to go in and watch film. I mean, I remember we would literally get done with practice at probably 10 in the morning. I'd go to class. And then from 6 to maybe 8 p.m. at night, me and J-Matt would literally, and whatever other receivers or quarterbacks wanted to join, we would go and sit down and watch every single play from practice, he would say this, and he would have already pulled NFL clips and say, you ran it like this. This is how we run in the NFL. And this is ways you can sort of incorporate this into your game. I mean, he gave me player comparisons of people to watch. Just overall, I think that he was one of the biggest influence on my football career. But outside of that, he's just a really good dude. I mean, he'll chop it up with you. He'll talk to you about life and things like that. So I think that as long as J-Matt's around, he'll be a forever influence on the Commodore football family. And I think when he gets done with his NFL career, you could definitely see him as in some role at Vanderbilt.
Coach Lee has brought back so many former players, either in official or unofficial capacities. I certainly hope he that Jordan sticks with the Niners, I think, as a tight end this upcoming season. But if not, he would certainly be loved if he came back to campus and was on Jess Neely Drive in the fall or sometime thereafter. Guys, I'm talking with Cam Johnson. Cam, number 7, played for Vanderbilt, just recently graduated and got into the transfer portal. And let's talk a little bit about Arizona State again. I meant to ask you, what type of an academic program are you going into? Is this a graduate level course, or are you taking more undergraduate classes? What's going on there?
So it's actually a graduate program, but it has a lot to do with what I studied at Vanderbilt. So it's called organizational leadership. That's what my master's degree will be in. And at Vanderbilt, I actually did human organizational development. And my track that I chose from that was leadership and organizational effectiveness. So I think that it'll just be something that I've sort of had some experience with, won't have to sort of learn something new throughout the season the whole time, but I'll also be able to add on to what I already know and sort of make myself hopefully a better employee whenever that time comes down the line.
Well, it's for every athlete, regardless of your sport, regardless of what level you have achieved, we all come to a realization that it's time to put away the sport and move on to our next line of work, our next profession, whatever it may be. And it sounds like you're putting yourself in a good position that if professional ball, whether you play it for 1 year or 10 years, you're going to have a very good field to go into afterwards. So here's my question for you, Cam. I'm going to assume you have aspirations to play on the next level, whether it's Canada, the NFL, of course, Europe, wherever it may be. But for this next year, how important is it to you from an academic standpoint and from an athletic standpoint? Is one going to be more important to you than the other, or is it difficult to put one in front of the other right now?
And so I've talked to my mom about this. Honestly, I was trying to do a post-bac. And so with that, it would have been a couple hours a week, less focus on school. I think that for me, I've gotten my degree. A Vanderbilt degree is one of the top degrees you can get in the nation. And as much as a graduate degree would be amazing, especially in something that would mean something for my career, I think that I'm going to give it my all on football this year. And so I think that for me personally, football is going to be at the forefront. And of course, I'm going to get my schoolwork done. I'm going to do everything I have to do to be able to play. But I think this year, for the first time in my college career, except for maybe my junior year with COVID, I'll be able to really put football at the forefront. And I think that it'll be really good for me. I think that was part of the reason I had my best year my junior year. And so being able to go back to that is something that I'm looking forward to.
Here's something that I want you to you don't have the experience just yet, but as the season progresses, it's going to be very hard not to do a comparison of the league you just came out of and the league you're going into. The level of fandom and craziness and just all that goes into the SEC. You've lived that for the last 4 or 5 years. You know what that's about. Do you have any idea, any thoughts conjured up just yet about the conference you're going into, what that's going to be like?
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be maybe a little bit different, just the overall feel. I mean, people down in the South start tailgating at 6 a.m. for a 8 o'clock kickoff. I don't know for sure that that's how it's going to be, but I think that it'll still be a lot of packed stadiums. I mean, we get to play in We get to play at USC this year, which was my favorite team growing up. So to be able to play in that stadium, something I'm super excited about. I'm hoping that it's rocking. And then, of course, I've seen videos of Arizona State Stadium. It looks like it's usually pretty packed out. And so I think that there will still be a good level of fandom, but I don't know. The South is crazy about their football. So we'll have to see if Pac-12 can keep up with that.
Yeah, they call the SEC the third conference of the NFL.
Yes.
But I tell you, a stadium I've been to, but not for a game. It was off season. Is Husky Stadium in Washington that sits right there on the river. Man, that looks like a really cool venue to play as well. I hadn't looked at your schedule yet. If you're going up there, I don't know if they're on your schedule, but if you guys were to go up there during the late in the season, how cold it or snow or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I know those will be some challenges that you did not have when you're playing in Gainesville or in Athens or in Oxford, where it's 100 degrees at 9 a.m. But
right.
then again, Arizona gets a little warm. It's just what do they call it? It's a dry heat. It's a little.
That's what I was gonna say. It's dry heat, no humidity.
Well, you're gonna have to get used to that, I'm sure. But guys, I'm talking with Cam Johnson. We're just running through some good times. He's at Arizona State now after being at Vanderbilt for the last 4 years. I want to talk about your recruiting class. What made your recruiting class special, and who were some of your running around buddies over those years?
I think what made our recruiting class special was just how close we actually were. I mean, I think that almost every guy in that recruiting class was tight with one another. Mostly all of us stayed for all 4 of our years. And we still all text. I mean, we had a group chat for 4 years that we would occasionally type in.
What was the name of it?
It was just 2018 football recruiting class. It wasn't anything.
I figured it'd be something maybe unique to your class or something other than the year.
I wish it was. And so I think that was the main thing. I mean, when we got there, we would always do things together. We'd text and say, hey, we're going to go here tonight. Does everybody want to come? And you'd see everybody there. I would say the people I was closest with were, of course, Gavin, Ben Bresnahan, and then probably the people I hung out with the most were probably Brendan Harris, Amir Abdul-Rahman, Elijah McAllister, and then CJ Bowler before he left. But those are just to name a few. I think that there were so many guys, even the walk-ons I was super close with. I mean, Jack Bowen and Kyle White, you might not know who they are, but they ended up leaving the team this past year. And then Alan Walters before he left. But
well, I was going to say, two thoughts about that. A lot of times the walk-ons become as important as the scholarship guys just because of their ability, not just on the field, but their abilities away from the field at being teammates. They can sometimes be the glue, frankly.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say is how many of those guys have come back, not just the walk-ons, but from the 2018 class who are still on the roster for this fall? There's got to be a few, I would assume.
Yeah. Let's see. Gavin Schoenwald is. Mm-hmm. Maxwell Worship, Ben Bresnahan, Elijah McAllister. I
think there's
DJ
maybe
Anderson.
7 or 8 at least.
Yeah, there's a good amount of people.
Guys. And that's not common for Vanderbilt to have 50-year guys who are on the active roster and they're contributors. I think that's going to serve them well this year.
Definitely.
But I know like the Vanderbilt baseball team is learning right now. They're the youngest team, and I'm not trying to get sidetracked. Vanderbilt baseball team is the youngest and least experienced in the SEC, which dominates, every year. But that's also a product of guys graduating or getting hurt or mainly being drafted. So about every 3 or 4 years, Coach Corbin has to cycle through a young year like this year. In contrast, Coach Lee, I think, is going to have an experienced team, even though several guys have gone through the portal, but that's everywhere.
Yeah.
You've got quarterbacks, Mike Wright and Ken Seals have been playing. This will be their 3rd seasons. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how Coach Lee, and that's where I want to go with this. You played for Coach Mason, you played for Coach Lee, very different approaches to the sport, very different personalities, but I also have seen some commonalities that they're very serious men about their craft. Share a little bit about, you had more experience, obviously, with Coach Mason. And then this past year, Coach Lee is just, and this is my term, Cam, not yours, he's trying to, in my opinion, from an outsider, a fan of the program, trying to change the culture from within the program to help change the culture outside the program. So I know that's not a fair question of me, but can you kind of contrast their styles? You said Mason was kind of a general manager, but talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think whenever people ask me about Coach Mason and Coach Lee's styles, I say they're almost complete opposites. It's crazy. So Coach Mason, he had been there a couple years, and so whenever he got fired, some of the old coaching staff was telling me, whenever you get a new coach, be ready. It's going to be a complete 360 of what Coach Mason was, because whenever you first get here, you have to lay the foundation until you have guys who have been here long enough to have the program self-run. And so Coach Mason was very, he would watch practice, he would stop practice, things like that, but he didn't do a ton of coaching. He let his position guys do that. And he was just someone who was sort of what I would consider very much so a player's coach. You could go to him for anything. He was always going to have your back, things like that. I think what Coach Lee has done that's been so much different and very drastic shock sort of for the players was when he came in. And I think it was much needed. I always said the one thing that we needed at Vanderbilt was just more discipline. And Coach Lee instilled that. I mean, the first 2 weeks we did nothing but learn a warm up, and it had to be perfect. And so I think that was something that was completely different. I think the level of I'm trying to think of the word I want to use. Responsibility you have to yourself and your teammates is completely new. I mean, Coach Lee, before every single practice in the team meeting, would take old clips from practices from the day before or from the games, depending on what day it was. And he would literally cycle through them and say, this is what you missed. This is what we didn't do here. Look, we're 1 block away. Do this better next time. Things like that. And so just the level of responsibility he's sort of putting into the program, the way that he's reshaped the way guys see Vanderbilt as a program, and just brought so much energy. I think that Coach Lee is just doing things in a completely different way. Not saying it's better or worse than Coach Mason, but he's definitely finding ways to bring life to the Vanderbilt football facility, and also just sort of creating a culture that I think the fans will be proud of.
Interesting your perspective. Did the guys on the active roster, did you get a sense, and again, I don't know how much interaction the football, basketball, baseball players, I mean, back in our day, we were all friends, all rooting for each other. Some sports guys wanted to play the other team's sports, but any Coach Corbin influence or vibes with what Coach Lee was doing? Because you'd notice names were off the shirts, the workout shirts. Share a little bit about, from your perspective, Cam, if there were some Coach Corbin influence or Coach Corbin vibes going on a little bit during the off season.
There were definitely some Coach Corbin vibes, and Coach Lee would share that from time to time. Like, the baseball team does this, such as the numbers or no names and things like that, and sort of having to earn, or he would share that he learned it from another program if it wasn't from Coach Corbin. I mean, I think that the way that he's come up with how to build a program and be the head coach has come from all of his years of working. So I think that Coach Corbin has definitely had a huge influence on Coach Lee. And I think that he would, if somebody were to ask him that tomorrow, he would say, yes, Coach Corbin is someone that I look up to, someone that I really respect. And so, of course, why wouldn't I want to use some of the things that he's done to create a great program to create my program?
Yeah, and Candace Lee has talked about, and I don't know to the extent she still does it, that all of the varsity coaches would get together either once a week or once a month to just kind of share about their programs and learn from each other, where I don't think they've ever had that kind of internal communications in the past. So I'm glad to hear from your perspective from that. And Cam, we got some Commodores in here. I want to say hello. We got Jason Tomachek, we got Doug Bradley, and we got a great comment from Kenny Cole to share with you. He says, personally, I like the transfer portal, and it will hopefully continue to benefit young men like Cam. Get a degree, get some more education, take a shot at the next level. Best of success to you, Cam. You'll always be a Vandy man. And I think that's some high praise, Kenny. Thank you for sharing that, bud.
Thank you, Kenny. And I want to say hello to everyone watching as well.
All right, Cam. I told you we weren't going to talk about on the field, but we're going to talk about on the field because we got two memorable 2018 games for you. I want to talk about the Mizzou game, taking it to the house. Share about that play. Let's talk about that game winner.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a simple play, honestly. I mean, it was, I think, third.
Well, they're simple to you, dude. You got the skills. It's not simple to anybody trying to defend you. Come on now.
But yeah, we had trouble scoring all day, but our defense was playing amazing, and it was a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 play. They just called. I think Riley actually said, give Cam a quick out. They're going to be focused on collegiate.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically I had a 5-yard out. If they were to press me, I'd have a go route, and we were going to sort of say, if we don't get it, we're going to kick a field goal. And so when I saw off coverage, I was pretty excited because I knew, hey, I'm going to be able to get this first down. And as soon as I caught it, I really it's weird because I can't see the guy, but you just have you have a sixth sense almost whenever you're playing sometimes. And I played tackle football since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
So I immediately knew that he had sort of over pursued. And so being able to get back inside real quick and get up the sideline, I really didn't know if I was going to score because I saw so many Mizzou guys just sort of had a good angle on me, but they kept over pursuing. And so being able to make one last little cutback and get the touchdown, it was a great feeling, honestly. And then to see the defense get the stop and us win the game, it was really an awesome feeling to sort of know that I was part of the game-winning touchdown and that we were able to finally get SEC win after sort of being down all year.
Let's back up to the beginning before the snap. You're at the line of scrimmage. You're looking at the lineup, the coverage you got in front of you. How big are your eyes and how big is your smile? Or do you have a mouthpiece in that's covering that a little bit?
Yeah. I don't ever try and do anything that gives it away. I think that, I've been in a lot of pressure moments. I mean, one time it was in high school. I'm going for the game-winning 2-point conversion catch, and I know that the ball's coming to me because the way that we've run the play. Mm-hmm. And so I was pretty calm out there. Honestly, just felt like another play. And like I said, I didn't feel like I needed to score. I feel like I need to get 5 yards, which I feel like I can get every time I touch the ball. But the smile was definitely there. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I've wore the same mouthpiece, not the same one, but the same looking mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Throughout all 4 years, and it was just a 615 mouthpiece with with the Nashville skyline in the back. So it covered my entire mouth. So I didn't give it away.
Let's talk about heartbeats. Controlling your heart rate in the heat of the moment, to me, is the success. It's the very fine difference between an athlete's success and not having success. I'm not going to say failure, but just not succeeding in what they want to do. Controlling you've heard this from coaches probably for years. How do you control your heart rate in the heat of the moment? Like when you're lining up and you know that play is going to come to you, how do you slow the game down? How do you slow that heart rate down?
I think there's a couple things. I mean, I think first and foremost, like I said, I've played this game since I was 5. I've been playing receiver since I was in 7th grade, and I've worked on everything that I'm going to go out there and do. I'm never going to go out there and do something I haven't worked on more than 100 times to 1,000 times to tens of thousands of times. I mean, I know that I've prepared my whole life for this. I've prepared every day that I go to practice for this. And so that gives me a little bit of peace of mind. I think that another thing is, I mean, when you're sitting in your bed, when you're 15 years old, all the way up, even younger than that, really all the way until even now, you dream of making game-winning catches. You dream of making the touchdown that sort of makes your team win the game. And so it's sort of something that we talked about a lot with Miss Kayleen Curry. She's actually this team psychologist at Vanderbilt now. Coach Lee brought her in. It's just sort of mental imagery. And sort of if you've imagined it in your mind a million times, when the time comes, more than likely you're already going to be expectant. You're already going to know what to expect. So I had seen that look a million times in practice. And so whenever I'm on the sideline and they call the play, I can already envision how it's going to go. I'm going to run this route. He's going to have off coverage. I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to get the first down. Now, what happens after that is just sort of, instincts and sort of playing football. But I think that those are the two best ways. I mean, if you've already envisioned and you sort of have confidence in yourself, I think that the world's in your hands.
You know what happens because you've been there either visually or physically hundreds, if not thousands of times. I think that muscle memory takes over.
100%.
And your body's just going through it. And then the athleticism kicks in. You don't have to think, you just do. And that's the difference, I think, that separated your performances, not just in that play, but in your 4 years from maybe other guys who didn't just quite have, they may have had the athletic gifts that you had, but I think that what goes on here a lot of times separates those guys. Now, the last question about that particular play, and I remember the play, but I don't remember the direction. Were you going toward the scoreboard or were you going toward McGugan? I can't remember the direction.
I was going towards the scoreboard.
Were you able to look up and have presence of mind to see where anybody was, or was it not in real time on the scoreboard?
It was, so I didn't even have a chance to. So they were all coming from my left side. So I didn't even look up at the scoreboard. I was looking to my left like, oh, shoot, I broke free of the first tackle. I only have about 17 more yards to go. And then I see at like the 3-yard line, I'm like, okay, I have to make one person miss at the 3. I beat the other guys. And so I made a miss. And then there was a guy at the goal line who tripped me up, but he wasn't far enough away for me not to get the touch.
Right. That's, it is rare that on our show that we talk about specific plays and things, but when you break it down like that, that's inside the game that only the guys who've been there really can appreciate the fact that you've done 10,000 hours, as the saying goes, for that moment to be successful. All of a sudden you're an overnight success after 6 years of practicing it that way for so long. That's exactly right. Guys, I'm talking with Cam Johnson. We're in the 2018 season. We're going to talk about the Notre Dame game for a minute. We're going to talk about the bowl game for a minute. Why were either of those games, Cam, memorable to you, and why do you keep them in your memory bank as being games that you reflect back on during your career?
I think the Notre Dame game, first of all, that was my first time playing in a stadium that size. I mean, I don't know exactly how many it holds, but I just remember it was the primetime game of that day. It was a 1:00 start. I want to say maybe a 12 o'clock. And just walking into that stadium was insane just to know the traditions behind it, things like that. And then that was actually the game where I took the starting job my freshman year. I started the following game before getting hurt for the first time. But so I played a lot of the second half, and I remember we were going on the game-winning drive. It's hard to talk about because we should have won that game. Coach Lee knows it too. But
I'm sure you guys know this. Coach Lee was on the other side of the field.
Yeah, that's what he talked about.
Yeah,
and so he's told us before, you guys should have beaten us that game.
Yeah.
But I just remember going on that game-winning drive, and the drive started, and I remember literally having to ask Kyle Shermer, "What did you say?" Like, I didn't hear the play. It was so loud. And the first time I'd ever experienced a stadium so loud where I had to put my whole head into the huddle. And then, I remember I made a catch on the final drive, sort of a second or third down catch that was cool. So that was just the first time I felt like I got meaningful play time in a meaningful game. I mean, the other two games were sort of blowouts.
Yeah.
And so it was just really cool to me.
Let's talk about Kyle Shermer for just a minute. Of course, his dad's famous NFL coach for years. And it's always been said about Kyle, obviously he has the athletic gifts, but what he's learned and his approach to the game, was it almost as if you had another coach in the huddle with you? I mean, did he know the offense and the game that well for young guys like you breaking into the lineup to be able to lean on?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Kyle knew the playbook like the back of his hand. He knew every check, when he should make hot routes, all of that. And I think that for me, that sort of alleviated the pressure on me, because I knew that if something were to happen, I could always say, "Hey, Kyle, I forgot something this way," or "Can we go back and look at that on film?" I mean, I remember when even before I got there, Kyle called me and was like, "Hey, you're one to play this year. We need you to play this year."
Mhm.
You need to come on campus and throw. It's only 20 minutes away from you. So I would go and throw with Kyle. When I was there and we were getting installs, he would make me come in and watch the installs with him, and quiz me. And then after practice, when I say I've never thrown with a quarterback more after practice than Kyle Shermer, I actually mean that. Kyle Shermer, on his own accord, on his own will, would always say, hey, after practice, you got to stay and run that route again. And you might be there for 30 minutes until Kyle felt like you ran the route how he wanted you to run it, and he felt comfortable throwing it to you. But he was going to make sure he got it right, and he didn't care how tired you were, which was good, because I think that's how a quarterback has to be sometimes. I think that, there's a stereotype about receivers. They can be divas. And not all of us are divas, but we all have some diva in us. I'll say that. And so there would be times after practice that we didn't want to run routes, but nobody was going to tell Kyle that they didn't want to run routes. And if they did, he wasn't taking no for an answer. And so I think that he was one of the best leaders I've ever been around. And as far as being an extra coach, he was 1,000% one.
High praise right there from number 7. Let's talk about the confidence of an athlete. Let's talk about coming back from injury. If you're not confident as an athlete, you're not going to succeed no matter what your position or your physical gifts, or if you're a starter, whatever it is. If you're not confident in your abilities, and that's that way in life, in anything, whether you're a lawyer, accountant, whatever you do in life, you got to have some confidence. But what happens when a person gets hurt, a player gets hurt? They're no longer on the sidelines. They're relegated to the training room. What happens to your confidence, and how did you build it to get it back, Cam, after the injury?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because it's hard. I remember telling people on the team that when I was hurt, I didn't even feel like I was a part of the team. The way that they do it now is different than the way they did it when I was hurt. So 2 different experiences. Somebody else might come on in a couple of years and say, hey, when I got hurt, I felt like a part of the team. But at the time, we would lift. We wouldn't have morning lift with the team anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We would go do rehab during meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And then after meetings, they would go practice. And while they were practicing, we would go do our lifts. Mm-hmm. And so we would be in there lifting for an hour and a half. And then we were released. We might go out and see 20 minutes of practice, possibly. Some days we would see none of it. Everybody would already be back in the locker room. And so you're not really with the guys anymore. You're not necessarily required to come to the nighttime meetings anymore. You don't go to the hotel when you come to game day. You don't get to do Star Walk because you're on a scooter. You get put in the box. And so it was hard just not feeling like I was a part of the team. But I think that as far as building back confidence, I think that the training staff really helped me with that. And I think that the coaches did as well. First and foremost, the training staff didn't rush me back at all. They were very slow. And most people don't know, if it was my senior year, mm-hmm. in the bowl game that year, I would have played in that bowl game because I could have. Mm-hmm. And of course I asked, like, hey, will I be able to play in the bowl game? And they said, technically you could, but Coach Moorhead and the training staff were like, no, you don't need to do that. Mm-hmm. And so it was a slow process. They didn't try and rush me. I was able to sort of run in the pool, which gives you confidence. Okay, I'm able to start running. Now you're running on a treadmill that has a lot of air in it, so you're not putting as much pressure on it. Then you graduate to going outside. Then you run routes. And so little things like that. I think that the hardest part for me was I broke my ankle blocking mm-hmm. On a swing pass. And so you go back to blocking, and it was, the coaches always say, drive your feet. If you drive your feet, you'll never get mm-hmm. you never get stepped on. Mm-hmm. Well, I was driving my feet. So now I'm like a million thoughts going in my head the first day back at practice. And honestly, the way that I got over it was Coach Moorhead, the day that he said, I wanted an install 1. Mm-hmm. And install 1, day 1, that play came up, and I wasn't even in. He stopped the practice and said, Cam, go in. They told me to play, and he was like, I wanted you to run this play. Like, you got to get over your fear.
Yeah.
And so once that happened, I was able to sort of see, okay, blocking's not an issue. And then just sort of repetitiveness again. You play through a couple practices. I knew my hands hadn't gone anywhere. Those will never leave me.
Yeah.
But just being able to see that, hey, I can still run routes. I haven't lost anything, things like that. It just sort of comes back naturally.
You're so right. It doesn't matter the decade when you played. When you're hurt and you're not part of that active roster and participating in all team events, you really do feel like an outsider, and you get depressed, and you get a confidence level just goes down.
Yeah.
Now, did Miss Curry play any part in building back any from a mental standpoint? Did you have the sports performance coaching, if you will? Does that play a part in it?
So at the time we had Mrs. Woosley, who I actually didn't go see during that time. Mrs. Curry or Coach Miss Kayleen. Sorry, it's weird for me to call her Miss Curry now because
I don't know her personally. I didn't know what you guys called her.
Yeah, Miss Kayleen. She just came on this past year, and so I only got to have her for 1 year. I think that for a lot of the injured guys, she does help a lot though. Like she will call them into her office. She'll have meetings with them. I think for me, it was Coach Moorhead. I mean, Coach Moorhead would still make me meet with him once a week. And so he would just sort of talk to me. How are you doing? How's your mental? Things like that. And so that was sort of my go-to guy. And I think that he was throughout all my time at Vanderbilt while he was there.
What about your teammates? What about your family? How much of an influence and daily, certainly you had daily interaction with the teammates because you're with them, dorms and classes and stuff. But what about from their perspective, guys in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, I think that my teammates were awesome about it. I mean, they would also always let me know how much they miss me and like, I'll be back soon and things like that, just to sort of keep my spirits up. And then just seeing the love I got the night that I actually got hurt and sort of, I went underneath the tunnel and got my X-ray immediately. So I knew I was done for the season before the game was over. And so to see how many guys were coming and sort of comfort me in such a time of like pain for me was something that I'll always remember. And it sort of helped me get through it whenever I wasn't feeling like I was part of the team, like just thinking about how those guys treated me.
Well, you know why they treated you that way? It's because you treated them that way in the past. It's called being a teammate. And these are the guys that when you're my age, y'all are still going to have inside jokes. You're going to get together once a year. You're going to remember. And this is my question to you. I want you to tell us, the statute of limitation is not up, by the way, because you're a young dude, for anything you may or may not have done, may or may not have been caught doing in your time in Nashville. Of course, I'm kidding. But 20 years from now, I want you to share with us now something that was fun for you and your buddies away from football. Did you go to the lake? Did you hang out at a certain club? Did you go restaurants that you texted in this group of friends of yours? It brings about big smiles or jokes and things like that, because all teammates have this. You know you do.
Yeah.
Share with us a little bit of insight.
I would say the one that sticks out to me the most as far as like what we'll always bring back will probably be our freshman year. And even when I was in high school, there was one 18 and up like bar or club that you could go to in Nashville that wasn't like, they would play up-to-date music. It wasn't a karaoke bar because you got Lonnie's that is a karaoke bar. It's 18 and up. But it was one club, it was called Piranhas. And it was like Vanderbilt spot during the school year. And so that would be where all the freshmen were every week. And we would always get in a big group and we'd all go down there together and we'd all just have a blast. And there are a ton of funny stories that come out of that club Piranhas.
Now, wait. Before you go into any of that, this is going to be on YouTube and it's going to be a public video.
Yeah. No. nothing crazy, nothing too crazy, but no, there are some great stories from there. Some that we still talk about to this day. And so I think that just that place in general will be something that we always talk about. And that guys will always laugh about. It sucks for the younger classes now because Piranhas actually went out of business. I want to say my sophomore year. Not because of Vanderbilt though, it was because of people who come back in the summer. But yeah, so that'd probably be my biggest one. I think that the bowl game was fun as well. Not the football aspect. It was fun. Don't get me wrong, but you get to go and there's a players lounge and you see people in there talking about, oh, I can beat you in this game. And you just hear people trash talking the whole time. There was a basketball, like a pop shot thing that people were competing about, ping pong. I mean, it was just so much fun. And the whole week was about competing or trash talking or just being with your boys. And I think that was something that was super special as well.
Oh, I bet it was. And Cam, we've got just a couple more minutes, and I appreciate you spending some time with us. Favorite place, best food on campus and off campus during your time at Vanderbilt?
Ooh, on campus. I would say it can be a restaurant, right? You don't just mean like.
It's your call. Yep.
Okay. I would say the best place to eat on campus would probably be Pancake Pantry, maybe. I think Pancake Pantry is a little overrated, honestly, but it is still good.
It is such a touristy place.
Yeah, it's just I don't find it an hour and a half long wait worth it. But I think off top, actually McDougal's might be my favorite.
Okay,
McDougal's.
There you go.
I think off campus, Amir Abdurrahman and I went to almost every breakfast spot in Nashville. We're huge breakfast connoisseurs. In junior year through senior year, we would go every off day to breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say Big Al's is up there. Big Al's Deli. It's a breakfast spot that's hole in the wall, but you'll go in there and you'll meet Big Al. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the nicest, most awesome human beings you'll ever be. It's huge, huge platters. Nashville Biscuit House was really good. And then if we're going not breakfast, I got to go with Rodizio's.
Nice.
I don't know if you've ever been there, but that's a Brazilian steakhouse, and it's unlimited meat.
Well, you're about to get a taste of a whole different culture of food out west, I bet.
Yeah.
You know, couple of closing questions, quick answers. Favorite class and professor at Vanderbilt?
Lori Woods, sociology. She had classes I took all 5.
Why was she such an influential professor for you?
I think she was one of the teachers or professors who really cared about athletes on a super deep level. She came to all of our games. She came to practices. If you had a game the night before and you said, "Hey, Professor Woods, I'm genuinely beat. Can I turn this in late?" She always understood. And she was nice to everybody. So
those professors are few and far between, unfortunately, at Vanderbilt. What makes you the most proud to be a Vanderbilt graduate?
I think just how prestigious it is, and knowing that I was the first in my family to graduate. That's something that's meaningful to me, to set a good example for my younger sisters. But also, like I said, Vanderbilt's not somewhere that's easy to get into. It's not somewhere that's easy to graduate from. And so that to me is special, and it's definitely something that I have pride in.
Who do you currently pattern your game after?
I would say Julian Edelman and Cooper Kupp. I'm not gonna be a burner, but I'm gonna run great routes, and after the catch, I can make people miss and I can go the distance.
Those are 2 good ones right there. That's for sure. Now, when you score your first touchdown on a 9 route this fall and cameras are on you, who are you thanking first?
Definitely my mom. I mean, best friend, single parent since I was born. Sacrificed a lot for me to live in Nashville. So she's my hero. She always has been. She always will be. So that's who I'm thinking. And then, yeah, of course.
Well, I've never met her, of course, but on behalf of all of Vanderbilt Nation, you thank her for not letting you go to Tennessee.
I will.
Guys, what an awesome conversation. You've got no bigger fan than this guy right here, Cam, and we certainly wish you the best this fall at Arizona State. We're going to be following you beyond Arizona State as well. So thank you for spending some time with us tonight. This has been a great conversation for me.
I really enjoyed it. I want to say thank you so much for having me on and sort of getting to learn a little bit about me outside of just football. So I enjoyed it, and it's been one of my favorite podcasts to be on.
Well, thank you. And as Kenny Cole said, you'll always be a Vanderbilt guy. So you got to give us an anchor down.
Always. Anchor down always.
Guys, Cam Johnson, we wish him luck this fall. Keep coming back every Tuesday. I've got Commodores lined up from now until kickoff at Hawaii in late August. So Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Central. Y'all have a good week, and we'll catch you next week. Take care.